Crisp.
Crisp.
It's less crisp for me because I have to use my headset today. Crisp.
Well, shit fucking happens. No one's listening.
No one's listening. That's not true. There's several hundred people who listen to us every week.
Facts. All right.
Oddities. Stay strange.
Hi, all several hundred of you. Welcome back to Oddities. I'm Cassie,
I'm Kelly.
and welcome back to Strange Town. I'm doing finger guns because that's how excited we are today. As per usual, everything's in the description. Links to our social media. Follow along for fun. We have links to our Patreon if you'd like to support our show. You could do so for as low as $1 a week, and you get a bonus video episode of us every fucking week. And you get access to all the previous ones. And depending on what tier you join, you might get some free merch. So, yeah.
Check it
And
out.
chickadee check it. We also have a merch shop uh, of other merch that's very cool, worked on by various very talented individuals. So thank you so very much. Shout out to Kyle Head for our intro, by the by. And and we have a website. If you'd like to visit literally any of these things, you can also just go to our website. Um, and you can also write to us in there, which is very cool. Send along your topics, send along your personal stories, because we want to fit in one more listeners episode this year at least. Thank you. That's everything.
That's all. How's my
That's
bestie?
all. Your best is good. I we share this on the Patreon, but I'm very excited to share. I have another cool fashion piece for my wardrobe. It is the Taylor Swift Eras Tour t-shirt, but it's Adam Sandler. So it's the Adam Sandler Eras Tour, and our Lord and Savior Adam looks fantastic.
Which
He
actually,
just
Adam
looks,
Sandler did go to the Taylor Swift Eras tour.
I know, which I love that for him. God, he and I have so much in common. We would be such good friends. But anyway, he's fantastic. He looks wonderful. I will be proudly wearing this to a local farmers market today. If I don't get at least 5 comments about how cool it is, I'm gonna kick someone's stand over. That's
do
it.
you do you know what I just realized you need? What
What?
Eras tour you need? What shirt you need?
Which one?
What needs to be created?
Is it cryptids?
No, they well, besides cryptids, they need to make
Okay.
a Jack Black.
They fucking do need to make a Jack Black,
Could you
okay? And
imagine?
I was thinking about that, and I would wear the ever living shit out of that. That would become my
Because
all right.
that's your main
This is
man.
this is becoming a fucking problem because I have 2 of these shirts now. I'm gonna search for a Jack Black one, and then on top of it, I've also been targeted with Eeyore and Tigger. So I'm about literally
And you
all I'm
just
going to be
targeted me
wearing.
with fucking Snoopy and Stitch.
Oh, Snoopy and Stitch. Oh, how cute was that Stitch one? Dude, first of all, what are we doing? Why are we not selling these things?
I don't know. I don't know what the
I
fuck
gotta
is wrong
get
with us.
I gotta get my shit together. So
I gotta
yeah,
get my press
anywho.
out and start going.
That's right, Queen. So anyway, that's exciting. It's also almost my birthday. By the time this comes out, we'll have passed my birthday. But
Yes. Yes. You will
she's gonna
have.
be 32, kids.
She will be a 32 queen.
A 32 queen. Aging like fine wine, I might add.
Yes,
If
you
I do
are.
say so myself. Thank you. And I was saying to Kelly, actually, I had this thing that I had to do for work this week, and it's like a about yourself slide or whatever, and it's mostly supposed to be pictures and whatever. I compiled it, and it was a nice feeling because like sometimes I go through life and I'm like, God, I just haven't done enough. Like I should be doing more. And then I looked at this slide and it was like, no, I've actually lived like a very full
It
life
was a
up until
nice
this point.
reality check, wasn't it?
It was for my
Because,
sad, scared mind. Yeah,
because you know, like I could tell you until I'm blue in the face how amazing you are, but until you have like, until you do
that
it in
moment.
front of it, have it in front of you, and you do it yourself, it's like, oh wait, I've done a lot. I'm good.
Hey, you know how it is, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just like it's wonderful hearing it from people like you and like my parents and Corey, whatever. But like, yeah, until I sit there and I see it myself, I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're doing great, and like, what a cool life it's been so far. So I'm excited for the next Well, 700 years because I'm immortal and I will be ageless for all time.
I love the tone change.
Well, this is a spooky podcast, so gotta go with the flow scheme. How's my birthday? We had a
I'm
big, well, you had a big week.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. I honestly, my favorite part about this week
Yeah.
was probably Tuesday. I was sitting in my car running a bunch of errands. I had a big day on Tuesday, and I was waiting to have my groceries loaded into my car when. So here's the thing, guys. I live in the fucking desert. Okay,
Right.
it is
Correct.
hot. In fact, we have another heat advisory, heat warning today,
We have it for like the next 10 days. I fucking hate this.
and I'm not loving life, but all of a sudden
No.
the AC in my car dies. And it's not like that moment when, it's blowing cool air and hot air starts going. No, 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 no. It just stopped.
Brutal.
And I stared
So
at it and I
savage.
and I, I did yell the words, "The fuck?" And
Listen,
here's the problem. This would not have been a problem if I didn't have to go anywhere else that day, but I had to drive an hour to my parents because I had a very important
brutal.
dinner Tuesday night. I could not
Yes.
miss this dinner because fun fact about Kelly, I used to be a nanny, and one of the small children that I used to nanny was turning 21.
We're
Which,
not even gonna touch how that makes us feel.
yeah, we're not going to touch how that made me feel. Okay.
Nope.
But I
Nope.
was not going to miss this very important dinner. I was not going to miss this
Yes.
child. I can't say child anymore, but I was not going to miss her first margarita.
These
Okay.
youths. Yeah, exactly.
But I was very upset about this, and also not driving an hour without air conditioning. Not happening. Okay.
No. Pass.
At this point, still had my arm in a sling, so also limited. But
Sweaty.
also, another fun fact about Kelly, I can fix shit.
She can. She can. She's a mechanic now.
Lucky for me, it was a very, very, very easy fix, and it only cost me about $7. It was a
Amazing.
fuse.
We love to see it. We love to hear it. We love minor inconveniences. We'll take them.
Yeah. After
We'll do
some
that.
brainstorming with my dad, it was a fuse. I pulled that sucker out. I went up to AutoZone. By the way, AutoZone, could you talk to your workers about being a little bit more kind? Because,
Oh yeah, AutoZone can get fucked. They're always dicks over there.
and here's the thing, I would have driven 20 extra minutes to O'Reilly's, but again, no air conditioning, so didn't
Right.
really want to risk a
Oh,
heat
oh,
stroke.
oh. O'Reilly's.
O'Reilly's
Yep.
Auto Parts sponsor us. Anyways,
Sponsor. Yeah.
went up there, got it because it's like not that far from my house. But I asked the cashier, "Hey, could you please open this for me?" One arm, okay, guys. Again,
Yes.
I was limited, and she gave me the dirtiest look.
People need to get a fucking life. I fucking can't.
And she was genuinely confused about the question. What do you mean you want me to open it? It's a fuse.
This is
I
the kind
have
of person. This is the kind of person where if you had been in a wheelchair or something and something was up high and you asked someone to get it for you, she would have been like, "Why can't you stand up to get it?"
exactly.
Yeah, like incredible.
And I said, "I need it now. I need to put it in my vehicle now. Could you please open it for me? Because I can't." And she's
Do
like,
you see? Do you see why I can't?
she's like, "So you need me to open it now?"
No, I need you to open it 10 years from now. What
And
the
I
fuck
said,
kind of question is that?
and I'm like, "Yes, please." It's just like, it was, I lost brain cells in that conversation.
That hurt. I lost brain cells hearing secondhand about this conversation, for what it's
And
worth.
like, what hurt more in that conversation was there was a guy working on his car in the parking lot, like literally going in and out of AutoZone, buying stuff, opening it in the store, throwing away the trash, and going back out in the parking lot and working. Like, I didn't know what was hard about me opening a fuse in the store.
Listen, I literally don't even know how to weigh in on this conversation, other than sometimes in the universe there are just people who exist merely to convert oxygen into carbon dioxide, and that's
I
just the
just,
best they can do.
I couldn't. So anyways, it got fixed. Tuesday was probably the highlight of my week, only because I've got to fix my car with one hand. Um the other highlight of my week was that my littlest turned 5 yesterday. Although that
I
was
can't
also
fucking
very
believe that.
I also had the realization that he's turning 5.
How the fuck did that happen?
I don't I'm
Literally, how? Like, how?
I'm unsure. I'm unsure because I'm
Yeah,
unwell.
I don't blame you. I too would be unwell at the thought.
um his birthday dinner still makes me laugh, as
It
it was
sounded lit.
macaroni and cheese and bacon.
Fuck yeah.
It's your birthday, you can eat whatever you want. That's the rule.
That's the rule.
Chose
We don't make the
wisely.
rules.
Yep.
Yeah.
For the record, Michael and I did not eat macaroni and cheese and bacon. We had BLTs.
Okay, still banging.
Yep.
Great, great
We need a
complimentary
little bit
dish.
more substance. So
Fair, fair.
yeah. But yeah, it was a good day. I think I'm getting really good at the balloon arches. I'm not gonna ask your mom though, because
She would
cause
always
she's the
tell you that
pro.
they look wonderful. She would always tell you they look wonderful, and they do look wonderful. So, good for you. Yeah, you whipped up that bad boy. Proud of you.
I finally invested in one of the electric pumps.
That's it. That's the move. One of the air ones. I brought it along to my bachelorette party,
Yes.
remember? And that thing's the
And I was
bomb.
like, why
Yeah.
didn't I do this sooner? After, I don't
Aren't you
know,
glad?
I think it was like, I think 6 years of doing balloon arches. I'm like, why the hell didn't I get this sooner? I was done in an hour.
That shit, life changing. Absolutely life
Truly,
changing.
best, I think it was $15. Best $15 I ever spent.
Hell yeah. We'd love to see it. You know what else is the best 15 bucks I ever spent? This Adam Sandler
Wait,
t-shirt.
yours was $15?
I think it was like 17.
Even better.
I know. Yeah. So we'd love to see it. And love this for us. We are nearly at our magic 13.
Yes, we are. And I have a hilarious. Well, it's not hilarious. It's a little tragic, but it's just interesting. Never heard about it.
Spicy. Can we do you first? Because I didn't look at your topic and I'm dying.
Okay, it's a spicy piece of history in America.
America, here we are. Land of the spicy.
Ready?
I am so ready.
I'm
Maybe
talk.
not?
I'm talking about the Great Molasses Flood.
If that's not America, I don't know what is. Is that
I'm
not the most American shit you've ever said?
I'm talking about the Great Molasses Flood of 1919.
I remember it well. Good old 1919. Excellent. I'm so excited to hear about this.
So, the Great Molasses Flood, also known as the Boston Molasses Disaster.
What's going on in Boston? Because we had the Tea Party, we had the molasses flood. Like, what's happening there?
I don't know, but this is. The more I read, the more I was like, what the fuck?
I love it. I'm so
So,
excited.
it was a disaster that occurred on Wednesday, January 15th, 1919, at the north end of the North End neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston.
A large storage tank filled with 2.3 million gallons
Oh my God.
of molasses weighing approximately 13 tons burst, and a result wave of molasses rushed through the streets and estimated 35 miles per hour,
Oh my God.
and it killed 21 people and injured 150.
Oh my God. What a way to die. Could you imagine?
Could you imagine that horrific dying by molasses?
So sticky.
Because from the sounds of it, some of them died by drowning,
Drowning. What?
which
How awful.
that sounds painful. Like
Awful.
drowning to me
Sounds terrible
also
to
just
me.
immediately sounds horrific, but molasses is thick.
Yeah, it's some thick ass shit. That's gonna be
That
gross.
sounds just agonizing.
It sounds awful. That's so
Yeah.
sad.
So,
Holy
the event
shit.
entered, I guess, local folklore, and the residents
Okay.
reported for decades afterwards that the area still smelled of molasses on hot summer days. Which,
Dude,
because
I
I
fucking believe
imagine
it.
it took decades, maybe longer to clean. Like, I imagine it never
Absolutely.
actually got fully clean.
I
Because
I 100% believe it.
could you imagine the tiny crevices that got
So many
into?
nooks and crannies.
The
It's so
cracks in the
sticky, it's so
streets.
thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, forget it. Forget it.
So, the flood. Molasses can be fermented for
Hmm.
alcohol purposes, and that's exactly what happened, and that why it was there.
Oops. Okay.
Um, the disaster occurred at the Purdy Distilling Company, um, at the 529 Commercial Street near Keeney Square. A considerable amount of molasses had been stored there by the company, which used by the Harborside Commercial Street tank to offload molasses from ships, and stored it for later transferred by the pipeline, the Purity ethanol plant, suited between Willis Street and Ever Ease Way in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The molasses tank stood 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter. The tank and contained as much as 2.3 million, which I still can't wrap my head around, like truly how much
No.
that is.
That's so much. Yeah.
On January 15th, temperatures in Boston had risen above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Climbing rapidly from frigid temperatures to preceding days, the previous day, the ship had delivered a fresh load of molasses, which had been warmed to reduce viscosity to transfer, possibly due to the thermal expansion of older, colder molasses already inside the tank. The tank burst open and collapsed at approximately 12:30 p.m. Witnesses reported that they felt the ground shaking and heard a roar as it collapsed, a long rumble similar to the passing of a train. Others reported tremendous crashing and deep growling, a thunderclap bang, and sounded like a machine gun and rivets shot out of the tank. So like the
Oh
tank
my
just like
God. Just
bursted.
like, holy
Yeah.
Christ. I feel like that was like if anybody was around it when it burst, like actually near it, that would have been freaky as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The density of molasses is about 1.4 metric tons per cubic meter, 40% of more denser than water, resulting in molasses having a great deal of potential energy. The collapse translated this energy into a wave of molasses, 25 feet at its high peak, moving at 35 miles per hour. The wave was of sufficient force to drive steel panels of burst tank against the grinders of the adjacent Boston elevated railways. So I think people were also injured from the the steel tank.
Yeah.
So that didn't help.
No, that doesn't that just adds
Yeah.
to the situation.
A man by the name of Stephen Pielo describes how nearby buildings were swept off their foundations and crushed. Several blocks were flooded to a depth of 2 to 3 feet. Pielo quotes in the Boston Post, molasses was waist deep and covered the streets and swirled and bubbled about the wreckage. Here and there, animals were also victims, unfortunately,
Oh
obviously.
no. Yeah.
Um, there was another account. Anthony Di Stasio, walking homeward with his sisters from Michelangelo's school, was picked up by a wave and carried tumbling on its crest, almost as though he were surfing. Then he was grounded, and the molasses rolled him like a pebble. So imagine being
Oh my
tumbled by a
God.
by a wave in the
Yeah.
ocean. That's exactly how he was. and as the wave diminished, he heard his mother call his name and he couldn't answer as his throat was so clogged with the smothering goo. He passed out and then he opened his eyes to three of his sisters staring at him. So he survived, but he had the
Oh my God.
molasses.
Like coating it. Oh my God, so
It's a
bad.
nightmare.
So bad. I hate it. How do you get
And
it out?
I
I
know,
guess
I
just like how
drinking
do you
water or
like
swallowing,
vomiting or like
vomiting.
I
I imagine he aspirated a little bit because
right? Yeah.
and that sounds horrifying too. Like
Oh my God, I hate it.
the
Wow, a new fear,
after,
a new way to die.
yeah, the aftermath of all of this. First to the scene were 116 cadets under the direction of Lieutenant Commander H.J. Copeland from the USS Nantucket, a training ship of the Massachusetts Nautical School, now the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, that was docked nearby at the playground pier. The cadets ran several blocks towards the accident and entered into the knee-deep flood of molasses to pull out survivors, while others worked to keep curious onlookers from getting in the way of rescuers. Boston Police, Red Cross, Army, and Navy personnel soon arrived. Some nurses from the Red Cross dove into the molasses while others tended to the injured, keeping them warm and feeding the exhausted workers. Many of these people worked through the night, and the injured were numerous, so numerous that doctors and surgeons set up makeshift hospital nearby in a nearby building. Rescuers found it difficult to make their way through the syrup. Gee, I wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
To help victims, and it 4 days lapsed before they stopped searching. Many of the dead were so glazed over in molasses that they were hard to recognize. Other victims were swept into the Boston Harbor, where they were found 3 to 4 months after the disaster. 3 to 4 months.
Oh my God. I can't believe that.
In the wake of the accident, 119 residents brought a class action lawsuit against the United States Industrial Alcohol Company,
I mean,
which,
like, yeah.
yeah, which had brought Purity Distilling in 1917. It was one of the first class action lawsuits in Massachusetts and considered a milestone in paving the way for modern corporation regulation. The company claimed that the tank had been blown up by anarchists
Okay. Sure.
because some of the alcohol produced was used in making mun- um, ammunitions. But the
Hmm.
court appointed auditor found USIA responsible after 3 years of hearings. 3 years. It took that
Oh
long.
my God.
And the company ultimately paid 628,000 in damages, which is 11 million today.
I feel like it's not enough.
Nope. Relatives of those killed reportedly received around 7,000 per victim, equivalent to 120,000 today, 123,000 today. Do you want to know how it was cleaned up?
I really do. Yeah. How did they?
So the cleanup crews used salt water from a fireboat to wash away the molasses and sand to absorb it. And the harbor was brown with molasses until summer. The cleanup was immediately in the immediate area took weeks and several hundred people contributing to the effort. And it took longer to clean up the rest of the greater Boston and the suburbs. Rescue workers, cleanup crews, and sightseers had tracked molasses through the streets and spread it to subway platforms, to the seats inside trains, streetcars, to payphones,
Oh
to the
my God.
handsets, into homes, and to countless other places. And it reported everything in Boston a Bostonian touched was sticky.
Fucking believe it.
But they
Yeah.
ultimately used the salt water from the ocean to clean up, which is pretty clever.
Smart. Yeah.
And I had never heard about this.
Literally never. I had no idea this event
It
existed.
is tragic in every way, shape, or
It
form, but
is.
the most bizarre tragedy. It's way up
Yep.
there. I'm sure that
It,
there's.
it's up there.
I think it could have been far worse as far as deaths.
Yes, I agree.
It's still. The 21 is still tragic. Do not get me wrong. However,
Hmm.
just wow. They do
I know.
believe that the tank had been leaking for quite some time, and
Okay,
therefore
well,
it was.
that's negligent.
Yeah, so because it was already weak, there was a way for it to explode easily.
Hmm.
So yeah, I believe that the Purity Distilling is 100% responsible because it was negligent. Those tanks should
Yeah,
have
they
been
done
checked
fucked up.
regularly. They should have been checked before being refilled. They should have
Hmm.
been it like that kind of stuff. And I mean, back then, things are not as thorough as they are now, right? However, at least should have been checked before being refilled. Are there any leaks?
Listen, things aren't even thorough enough now.
No,
Like
they're not.
we're just shitting the bed left and right.
But that is the Great Molasses Flood.
How interesting. Where did you
This
find
is
this?
from my this year's 52 topics,
Very cool. Very
which is
cool.
courtesy of Google. So,
Thank you, Google. I had no idea that this existed either. I love weird history. Like it's got a special place in my heart. It's
same.
just chef's kiss. Wow. Dude, what the fuck?
I
What a
know.
mess.
I know.
I can't, I'm
What a
glad I didn't.
literal mess.
A literal mess. I'm glad I didn't live to see any of that shit.
But yeah,
Like,
what's happening in Boston?
yeah, Boston, are you guys cool? Like, what's going on there? So,
And also,
there's
I
another
need
one. Are
to
you
know
okay?
in Boston, is this history that's taught? This, like,
Yeah, like,
do you know what I mean? Because I definitely have noticed a trend. In certain areas, certain things are taught,
mm-hmm.
right? Is this something that's taught in Boston schools?
Yeah, like
Do
local
they learn
history and
about the Great
lore.
Molasses Flood?
They fucking should.
Are
They
any of our
absolutely
listeners from
should.
Boston? Have you learned about this? Please tell me more.
Yeah, tell us, Bostonians, please. What a what a trip. Wow. I love it. You did a great job. Good find. Well
And now
done,
I need to
bestie.
know about your topic because I need to know. I need to know.
My topic is a very odd one.
Yes, it
It's
is. Just
it
from the
is.
name.
This is from this is from cousin Caitlin. Thank you, cousin Caitlin.
Thank you, cousin Caitlin.
Today, today I'm talking about Obey the Walrus. So, what is this?
Yeah, and why do I need to
I
obey it?
I hadn't heard about this, honestly, until I started researching this shit. So, this was all new to me. So, for some people, if you've been using the internet for a long time, you might have heard about this. You might have heard of Obedece a la Morsa, aka Obey the Walrus, which is a very bizarre video of a deformed individual who like clumsily tap dances accompanied by this weirdly creepy song playing backwards and like these surreal video effects. I have watched this video because I decided to look it up when I was researching this.
Fair.
It's, I gotta say it's fucking weird to watch. So, I mean, like disclaimer if you watch it, it's like there's nothing scary about it. It's just like eerie and like unsettling to watch. Like I was watching and I was like, I feel strange right now. So it's the video itself is actually very popular. I guess there was this period of time, especially where it was like, woo, I had never heard of it, but the drama its creator caused in the early Hispanic YouTube community is not very well known. And the sole documentation of the video's backstory consists on like blogs that are like 10 plus years old, YouTube videos with like less than 3,000 views, and the incident is actually pretty unknown outside of like the Hispanic like YouTube community, which is kind of weird. So like there was this video that took off and it's like very strange, but I guess there's this whole like wild backstory to it too. So let's start a little bit with a little bit of context. So who's the person that's featured in the video? The tap dancing, whatever. The individual depicted is Sandy Crisp, also known as the goddess Bunny, who was a transgender woman born on January 13th, 1960 in California. Her life story is really tragic. As soon as she was born, she started to suffer from polio. Negligence from part of the doctors made her suffer far more severe consequences of polio than was necessary. For example, they introduced an 18-inch long steel rod in her back as a child, and it was never removed, and it severely disfigured her body. And it was
Oh,
hard for her to, yeah, and so it was hard for her to walk at all. And she used a great deal of her life a wheelchair to move around. So she also struggled with gender identity, more specifically from like the lack of support from her family around this. Her mom was like ashamed of her, usually like dead named her. The perceived weakness of being trans and feminine, alongside the physical weakness granted by her disability, made her this like really easy target for humiliation and like sexual abuse in the foster homes she would reside in. Um, and so she felt like an outcast in an era where I guess like queer identity and disability were not like well understood. I mean, we're talking about like the 60s, 70s, like,
yeah.
and she ended up finding this welcoming home in the Hollywood underground. So she starts this career as like a drag queen and she becomes an icon of the underground, and it helped her to form like significant connections with artists of like all varieties. And she acted on a bunch of independent films. She was featured in music videos. She was the subject of several art photography projects, one of which is in the Louvre's permanent collection,
Oh,
which is
that's
wild. It's the
amazing.
goddess, yes, it's the goddess bunny as Leda by Joel Peter Witkin, and it's dated 1986. Um, Before you look it up, it's a nude picture, so heads up.
Heads up.
But anyway, heads up if you're listening to this at work or something, like don't do that. Um, Most relevant to the story around all of this is the self-titled documentary, The Goddess Bunny, which was released in 1994. It's like a tour to the queer Hollywood underground with a focus on Sandy Crisp, the queen of the Hollywood underground.
Yeah.
It's an amazing showcase of like weirdness and uniqueness, and it's a film that depicts curious and like bizarre but very heartwarming individuals, like avant-garde performances, all kinds of stuff. One specific scene in the documentary showcases the content of a single tape, which was sold on rare underground VHS video, and it is the Goddess Bunny tap dancing with rock and roll music in the background. So this now is playing into the Obey the Walrus video. It's it's actually a pretty wholesome tape. She looks like she's enjoying herself. She makes like these silly faces to the camera, but in the future, this video would fall into the wrong hands and catapult her into infamy like 14 years later. So, 2006, here we are. What a time to be alive. YouTube user Contron would upload a series of videos to his channel titled Mentally Disturbing. And some argued that this actually pioneered like the creepy, mysterious video genre that like the YouTube horror community has come to love. Because as far as we can tell, this is one of the first of its kind. It has to be mentioned that the videos don't like feel scary now, but like you could see how these maybe served as a blueprint for what was going to come in the next like decade or so. So anyway, the fourth video of the series features, and a warning to you because if you look it up, there's like a small frame of gore at the end, but basically it features a lot of strange, quote unquote, creepy video samples. But most importantly for us, is the soon to be infamous tap dancing footage from the Goddess Bunny documentary. And the editing and the music and the fact of being paired with jump scares and like similar creepy footage made this dancing scene look way more like eerie and disturbing than it actually was. And it was distorting the original content and intent, giving it this like odd aura at the expense of basically the Goddess Bunny's physical condition, which is like so awful to think about.
Yeah.
It was like disgusting. It's just a disgusting thing to do. And at the end of the day, it was a short clip in an otherwise long video filled with lots of other clips, but sadly, it inspired a bored teenager to make her the focus of a video that would make her viral for basically the wrong reasons. So, October 2007, we're a little like a year later. YouTube was basically just starting to break through the masses' consciousness. Um, and it was not particularly well known, in particular in the Hispanic America like community. Um, in this scenario, YouTube itself was mostly irrelevant. Most of the viral videos were shared between cell phones through Bluetooth or infrared file transfer. Hundreds of low quality videos were shared by teenagers on a daily basis, be it funny dancing animals, manipulative like propaganda about abortion, parody songs, whatever. This was like, early YouTube. It was a very bizarre space. So, the Hispanic YouTube community was mostly used as a host for some of these videos, which achieved viral status through word of mouth, and the rest of the content was just boring, like family photos, slideshows, irrelevant content. But anyway, it changed with the upload of this video. So enter Obedece a la Morsa. It is October 5th. The YouTube channel Obey the Walrus sees the light of the world, and it brings this infamous video with it. 80% of the video is the tap dancing footage, sometimes sped up, sometimes slowed down. The colors change and distort themselves. There's this weird, warped children's song playing backwards in the background. It's like exploitatively creepy. Um, and like nowadays we can shrug it off as some like badly edited video, but like at the time it really shook waves within the community. And it was something like they'd never seen before. Obviously, a lot of people downloaded it. They made it viral in this cell phone sharing like pseudo community, and it wouldn't stop there. It became one of the most viewed videos on the entire platform, amassing at the time an impressive 5 million views in a year, which now that's like, a drop in the bucket, but then that was like wild. So, Obedece a la Morsa was not the only video created by Obey the Walrus. In its single year-long run, there were another 10 videos uploaded to the channel. There was Insomnio, La Liebre y la Bestia, Dance of Doom, La Venganza. There's like a bunch of them. Um, and a lot of them are like really disturbing and very strange and just like weird. But anyway, they all have this similar sort of surreal aura that this Obedesa La Morsa video had, but they also add something seemingly like lacking in the original video, which was subliminal messaging. So then this channel started working in all of these subliminal messages to these strange videos, and like all of it sparked interest in who was Obey the Walrus, who like hosted this channel, and like his motives for uploading the videos. The community was hungry for answers, like who was the person tap dancing in the footage? Why was she featured in some of the other videos? Who was behind the channel? Why did they make the content? Was it like an art project? Like what was the deal here? So, at first, not much was known about the channel's owner, who we're going to refer to as just Obey. But anyway, the only info that could be found in the channel's description was his name and therefore his gender. He had a male name and his location. He lived in Mexico. Other than that, it was pretty much a mystery, and there were like a lot of conspiracy theories that were thrown around by horror enthusiasts. Like the video was satanic propaganda, they were saying. It was MK Ultra type of mind controlling scheme. Some say it was the work of a transsexual cult that hid subliminal messages in children's music. There's like 1,001 theories behind this, and some of these like false hypotheses lasted for years
Yeah.
after the ending of this story, overpassing the facts and becoming myth, and there were no clear answers at the point. So sooner than later, a community would form around this mysterious individual, and a lot of people tried to contact him through YouTube comments and or private messaging to no avail, and it started to spread to like the other broader Latin communities at this point. So it was no longer just like a Hispanic thing. Now we're getting like it's spreading to like all of the Latin communities, right? And so to address this newfound influx of enthusiasts, Obey opened an MSN account where he could chat with those people that he deemed worthy, which was usually like a very small select group of people. And he used his YouTube blog frequently to express his ideas, used a MySpace account to showcase his drawings, and then opened a forum to interact with the people interested in his content. And upon the following weeks, Obey's personality would come to light. He seemed to be like very disturbed. He enjoyed really questionable content like gore or coprophilia, and apparently believed himself to be a god. So clearly he wasn't a fully sane person.
Yeah.
His forum structure was like another proof of this. Some of the sub-forums worth mentioning are the Believers, for worshippers of the Walrus, the Mass, for those who are not convinced of following the Walrus but expressed interest in the videos, and the Walrus Speaks, which is threads about recent events, but they included commentary from Obey himself. and also satisfy your morbidity, a hub for all kinds of like depravities, and among others. And it was pretty clear that Obey basically wanted to establish some sort of cult within this community. And those fascinated by his videos like followed suit. People like bought into this. So his fan base continued to grow. Dozens of people would comment on the channel, post on the forum, they discussed the videos, they praised Obey. Few people would manage to catch his attention though because he was like very strict on who would have the opportunity to speak with him as a god. Those, I guess, fortunate or unfortunate enough to speak with him through MSN were greeted with talk of all kinds of like strange things: zoophilia, coprophilia, sadism, autopenetration, all kinds of edgy, disgusting, like really disturbing like things. And the extent of which these enthusiasts actually believed in the ideology and lore preached by Obey were like maybe playing along with it in like some kind of weird role play or whatever is unknown. But it's like browsing the forum is really hard because the archive on the Wayback Machine is very broken. And so gathering the existence of like initiation rituals, things like that, where people were asked to prove their worth through like several tasks given by the moderators and Obey himself, like the content of the rituals were secret though, and like enough context is provided to affirm that some of the fans were really invested in the lore, cult, community, whatever you want to call this thing at this point. So Obey had people begging to talk to him and participating in whatever this initiation ritual was. But there was another group of people who were really displeased with all of it, and I like can't really blame them.
Yeah.
But because I mean, this person was literally using like gore in his videos, was pleased in scaring others with his bizarre content, like significant like delusions of grandeur, and like a legion of haters would soon emerge. And the de facto leader at the time was a user by the name of Music is My Faith. So, one thing worth noting is that Music is My Faith struggled to find a subliminal message in the original Obedece a la Morsa video. As this was like the simplest video of them all, but to Music is My Faith, it was a complete and total mystery because there had to be something hidden that was like missed and needed to be uncovered. And like to this day, only the first two videos of the series survive. So the conclusion of Music is My Faith's investigation is really unknown to us, but it can be surmised that it caused like a big stir, and there was like a basically like this like cyber war that would ensue. Um, and flame wars, response videos like defending one side or the other, and general pettiness would soon come, and sooner than later, the existence of two groups was determined: those who obeyed the walrus and those who rebelled the walrus.
Yeah.
P.S. These are all words I literally never would have pictured myself stringing together,
Yeah, I
right?
this is a very interesting episode. Continue.
Really bizarre. So, Obey the Walrus versus Music is My Faith. The war was in full motion. This meant more and more worshippers who wanted to be part of Obey's turf. Some people would end up forming part of Obey's circle. Most were like wannabes who were promptly deemed unworthy by Obey. But there were
Unworthy.
unworthy. But there was one single user who ended up being more and more worthy, and he would end up becoming so invested in this whole lore that he basically became Obey's like closest confidant and like ally. So, this user was called Conquasabit. And this individual seemed to like truly and wholeheartedly believe in Obey's like deity status and really wanted to be like his right hand. And so he contacted him, he expressed admiration like about Obey himself, the videos, all the shit. Obey was like weirdly interested in the proposition and that this guy put forth, which is like, let me help you spread your message. So he asked him to prove his fidelity in the form of tribute videos, which would have to include similar editing and subliminal content that were so characteristic of the original Obey the Walrus videos. And so Concasabit obliged. He uploads several videos. La temes a la morsa, which is Are you scared of the walrus? Sueña con la morsa, Dream with the walrus, and La diestra de la morsa, the walrus's right hand, but mostly featured footage from the Goddess Bunny documentary, paired with the classic creepy editing of Obey's other videos. And Obey was like, yeah, this is the shit. So he privately names Concasabit his Prince of Terror,
Oh my god.
but then denies their connection when asked about it publicly. And Concasabit was like not fully worthy of being Obey's public right hand man, but that would like slowly change over the following weeks. So in the first stages of their friendship, Obey gives Concasabit false information about his life, feeding him lies as manipulators like to do. But over time, Obey would get very comfortable to the point of publicly acknowledging him as his true right hand. After all, Concasabit was like the Prince of Terror and blindly believe Obey was a god. Anyway, people are fucking wild. All this newfound attention to Concasabit would make him a secondary target of Obey's hater legion, right? Relevant to our story is user 77 Tortellini.
Love the name. Love the name.
Another, I know, another YouTuber of the Latinx community who made his own No Obedecere series. And this time he focused on Concasabit in his three videos, revealing subliminal messages hidden in all of his videos, showing how they use symbolism of Obey's content into his own. And it's worth mentioning that 77 Tortellini is one of the most savage players of this whole story, which I love
It's the
that
name.
given the username.
Yeah,
Right. So
definitely.
I know probably the most, the second most, I guess, disgusting thing after Obey himself is he sprouted hate and resentment against Concosabie and Obey both, which passes the using a lot of bad words and insults line, goes very questionable terrains, like joking about abuse. And so here's an excerpt from the final video of 77 Tortellini's video series. Quote, you disgust me, Obey the Walrus. You're a loser. You don't deserve any kind of forgiveness. You've caused so much damage. Do you know how many children had nightmares because of you? Do you know how many people have felt confused because of your delusions? People like you shouldn't even exist in the world, and even if more people like you happen to be born, we're all going to get our brains filled with shit, but not like your brain is already shit filled in abundance. A dog's waste is more significant than you. Yet you believe you're a god and you're above us. In reality, you're less than any single thing that exists in the wide and foreign universe. I mean, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Obey the Walrus was like garbage, but that excerpt is only 30 seconds of the video, and it's one of the milder quotes of an over 9 minute long rant about Obey the Walrus. So, anyway, 77 Tortellini goes really deep into this shit. His conclusions are kind of surprising. Since some deep analyses aren't even relevant to this drama, we're not even gonna get into it. But anyway, there's a lot of shit between the two of them. And um, some also link Obey and Concosabit to I guess some anime series called Death Note, where one of the people believes he's a guide, and then there's somebody who or God rather, and one of them blindly believes this and aids him in his quest for cleansing the world of all evil. So I guess people are drawing conclusions between that. I know nothing about anime, so I really can't even say. Anyway, 77 did fail to find any deeper meaning in the original Obedece a la Morsa video. As for Concosabit, the act of becoming Obey's closest ally didn't come without its consequences. He became a target of the anti-Obey Legion. He was analyzed with the same scrutiny that Obey once was, and was universally hated by those not worshipping Obey. Such is the price of being noticed by your true God, I guess, whatever. So anyway, the end of all of this. There's a lot of shit in between. A lot of the research that I had, my original notes was 15 pages long on this, and I've cut it down to 8. So here's the end of the era. The imagery of passing away used in one of Concosabit's videos made the community take Obey's disappearance because Obey was finally okay, I'm gone. That's it.
I
He's
don't believe it.
I'm out. Yeah, right. So Concosabit makes this video doing the symbolic death of Obey, whatever. The symbolism wasn't meant to be taken literally, but lots of people were happy they didn't have to deal with Obey's disgusting behavior anymore. Some people were really shocked and literally mourned his death. Some friends even made a posthumous video to honor his memory, even though he didn't actually die. He just was I'm gonna disappear now. But
Yeah.
whatever. But the wide majority of people were only sad because this era, filled with this mystery and drama, had finally come to an end. And so while the news initially made a huge shock inside the community, and again, this was mostly for some reason kept within the Latin community. I don't know. I guess because a lot of the videos, all the titles were in Spanish or whatever. But anyway, that aside, the news initially made quite a shock within the community, and the whole incident would slowly be forgotten in the following years. But one of the things that directly followed after the whole incident was the Finihario videos wave. So after Obey's quote unquote death, Some people felt compelled to continue his legacy, so they started to make similar content. And so, like, a little corner of YouTube would be filled with videos written with surreal editing, subliminal messaging, which were not related to the Walrus's lore at all. They were like their own thing. But anyway, users upon users would start to try to launch a movement in like a legitimate way, creating this weird like art form born out of pure creativeness instead of delusions or like mental illness. But anyway, it's argued by some that the Finihario movement is one of the few good things that actually came out of the whole drama. Some would say the content itself isn't very good, but at least like they went through like an artistic vein on it, I guess, instead of being like, let's make a cult
Yeah.
ridiculing this poor woman who had so much trauma in her life. But anyway, while the drama itself seemed to wrap up in like a perfect like final season of the show sort of way, there were still some questions left unanswered. Like the first example of this being like the validity of Concasabit's final investigation around all of this, and like there are videos into that. Um, and like there are interpretations of Obey's drawings, like traits like displayed in them, how those correlated with the ideal ideology of the videos. Some users have affirmed that Obey didn't know how to draw at all, and that images in the MySpace account were actually drawn by another person. Like if there's any shred of truth to any sort of allegations around anything, like really we should have probably just psychoanalyzed Obey de Walrus as a whole.
Yeah.
But anyway, the other thing that left the community kind of confused is the disappearance of Obey himself. So after his quote death, other YouTube accounts such as Obey de Walrus spelled with a zero instead of an O, or Obey de Wirus, like they're like rip-off accounts, and others who didn't even bother to alter the name showed up and tried to convince anyone that they were the real Obey, claiming they were hacked or that a YouTube like deleted their original account or whatever. The Obey de Walrus wiki, which I can't believe that's even a thing. But anyway, states that Obey returned with an account once called Obedenus Rosmaris, now simply called Obey de Walrus. But there's also talks of a SoundCloud account supposedly linked to Obey. The validity of these claims is impossible to prove though, because they might just be randos who like tried to gain clout out of this like separate artistic movement that grew out of this. But anyway, I think Obey is alive and quietly resurfaced somewhere on the internet, probably with a totally different username, hiding his
100%.
involvement. Like I like, why would you start all this shit and all this craziness and then like just like be like, no, I'm done. Like they're just gonna spawn off somewhere else. Let's be real here. So anyway,
What an
nobody knows. Nobody knows who anybody's true identity is. Like nobody knows Concasabit's identity. Like he also deleted his channel a couple weeks after Obey's death and disappeared from the internet. This event, among like also the high amount of knowledge about Obey's personality that he seemed to have, made a lot of people theorize that the two users were actually the same person all along, who made up all of this drama. And like early on, 77 Tortellini implied that Obey and Concasabit were one and the same in his final No Obodicere video. And the fact that Concasabit didn't even like mention this in his big rant directed in this like later like squabble of Concasabit and Obey de Walrus that I think kind of led to like Obey's quote unquote death. I don't know,
yeah.
it all seems very strange and it could have been easily debunked, but like Concasabit didn't even bother to mention it. And then like Concasabit is listed all the real names of like several specialists that he had contacted in an investigation, institutions where they worked. There's like a lot of shit. I don't know. Really, the aftermath of the original Obedece a la Morsa video itself is that the most popular re-upload has a whopping 32 million views, which is without considering all of the countless other re-uploads on YouTube. It shaped the entire internet, horror, some might say creepypasta community as we know it. There's other classics like I Feel Fantastic, The Dining Room Slash There's Nothing, Username 666. They all did that kind of in the same vein. Obedece a la Morsa sparked this big wave of like reaction videos
Yeah.
and was even covered by big horror YouTube channels like Scare Theater, but they mostly focus on Sandy Crisp's story and like debunk some of the lasting conspiracy theories about the video, but kind of overlook really the true backstory around it, which is all this crazy shit. And the Goddess Bunny story and the fake myths eclipse the original lore, which is practically forgotten at this point. So while 2008's Obey would have hated this probably conclusion to all of this, hopefully if he's alive and well, like in the 2020s, he's happy he was able to move on and maybe go on with his life. I don't know. But anyway, the goddess Bunny. She unfortunately recently passed away in 2021. She was only 61. She was a victim of COVID-19.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know, yeah. So she's, another name on the long list of loved ones that died because of coronavirus. But
Yeah.
um, the news was announced by none other than beloved singer-songwriter Lana Del Rey, who actually had a close family connection with Sandy.
Seriously. Wow.
Y- yes, via her personal Instagram account. And so it shows that Sandy's relationship with the arts world remained closely maintained right until the very end, despite all this weird perversion of that one video of her. And it has subtle yet significant impact in popular culture. And none of that is relevant compared to her struggles, though. Like she had to endure so many horrible things, so much humiliation and abuse, but managed to overcome all of that and shine in her own unique way. And the headlines after her death proudly labeled her as a trans disabled cult icon. And that is Obey the Walrus.
Wow.
I know. When I first looked it up, I was like, oh yeah, this is like kind of a weird, crazy video. And then I started reading the backstory on it, and I was like, this is some like original like YouTube warfare shit
Yeah, it is.
with
That's,
this weird cult and like everything else. I can totally see why this grew the way it did in the early 2000s.
yeah, 100%.
100%.
100%.
And like I even think about like some of those weird like cell phone like text chain messages passes on to 20 people or this thing will,
Oh,
like
God.
whatever.
Yeah.
It was the era of that shit. But
It
I
100%.
hate I hate what they did to Sandy Crisp's
Yeah.
story.
I don't like that.
No. But I would advise like you guys should see the video. It is truly bizarre. And like I could believe how this Obey the Walrus person went on to make other videos that had subliminal messaging because when you look at this original video, you're like, yeah, there's some like this is like some weird shit.
Wow. What the
So that's
fuck?
that's Obey the Walrus. I had to cut out a lot. Like I said, there's a lot of history there. This whole investigation by Concasabit against Obey the Walrus. It's a whole freaking thing. But anyway, if you guys want a second part, I could do it. But that's
You
what
have
we
to let
got.
us know.
Let us know. There's absolutely nothing like strange, paranormal, whatever. It's just a YouTube video.
Insane. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, cousin Kaylin. This was a bizarre one to research, but an interesting one that I had never seen the video, so like
Yeah.
I don't know. But I also am not a part of like the Latin community, so like I don't know if this was truly a thing that was mostly big amongst them, like why would I have seen it? But
Yeah.
yeah. But that's that's what we've got for you. I don't know what to say other than people are fucking wild.
Humans, dude. Humans.
I know it's so much, but all of that aside, until next time.
Stay strange.